In the next half hour, the Democratic Party has been given time to respond to the President's State of the Union address. My name's Harry McPherson. I'm a Democrat, and I'm here tonight because I'm concerned about the state of our union. I don't think this country needs another political speech tonight. It needs ideas, and that's what this next half hour is all about. The problems we face demand that. They're not just Republican problems or Democratic problems. They're our problems as Americans, all of us. And what's important now is how we solve those problems.
We can criticize the Republicans, and we will. We think, frankly, though, it's time we put up or shut up. So you're going to hear a number of proposals from the Democratic Party. Some of them are very basic, tried and true, and some of them are new ideas. But all of them fall within a very positive and hopeful democratic view. A vision of America that says we can rebuild to a strong economy. We can create better and more secure jobs. And we can really put this country back to work. And two other themes run through all the democratic ideas you're going to hear tonight. Opportunity and fairness, the cornerstone rights of the American people. As Franklin Roosevelt said during the recovery from the Great Depression, just 4 words are important now. These 4 words: it can be done.
That democratic view is fundamentally different from Republican philosophy. We believe government should have a role, an important role, in making America great as a partner and energizer of that economic growth. We'll talk about the policies of the Reagan administration because we want you to see clearly their ideas and our democratic alternatives to them. We want to present you with a clear choice.
I remember when Ronald Reagan was running for president. He said what we needed to do is simple and basic. Tighten money, cut taxes to stimulate our economy, build our national defense, and balance the federal budget. That sounded pretty good to a lot of people.
The problems we face are not simple or basic, are they? If only things were that uncomplicated. If only you could just stay the course and hope to solve them. But you just can't have sky-high interest rates and stimulate the economy. You can't slash your revenues and commit to spending $1.6 trillion on defense over the next 5 years without consequences. In 1981, Republican Majority Leader Howard Baker called Reaganomics a riverboat gamble. And he was right. But it's a gamble that failed. It's put our economy into crises, one immediate crisis and one long-term crisis. Immediately, we have to stop the economy from sliding backwards towards catastrophe. We've got to put people back to work. Then we have to get it moving forward again, growing without rekindling inflation. Okay, part 1. How do we stop the slide? Well, the first problem is created by President Reagan's tax cuts. They're unfair. Worse, though, they're unproductive.
I guess the idea was cut the taxes of the rich and enough will trickle down to the rest of us. Now, I don't know about you, but nothing's been trickling down to me lately.
And you can see why. Look at this chart. Where does your income hit on it? $10,000 a year? 20, 30, 40? Well, this is where the bulk of the tax cut benefits really went. Right here, to people making over $50,000 a year. The rich, and nobody else, got richer.
This is where the Senate Finance Committee meets to write our tax laws. There's no question we need a fair tax system that everybody can understand and that will generate economic growth. The Democratic Party supported that idea at its midterm convention last year. With Congressman Dick Gephardt, I've been working on a progressive plan we call the fair tax. This is different from a flat tax. The fair tax will simplify tax laws and make them equitable by eliminating unfair loopholes. It will also lower tax rates significantly for all Americans. That will encourage investment across the board, and it'll tell those who work more that they'll keep more of their pay after taxes. We don't want people to lose money in bad investments just so they can pay lower taxes. We want people to make money by funding the breakthroughs that will guarantee our long-term economic growth and keep America number 1.
Ronald Reagan came to Washington to cut government spending, and of course he likes to remind us that he inherited a lot of that federal debt. Well, that's true, but instead of reducing it, he's kept piling debt on top of debt at a rate faster than any president before him. More debt is created in 3 months today than in the entire year of 1979. Look at this. If you take the projected deficits for the Reagan administration, it comes to more than the total debt created by all the other presidents in history, all of them, added together. Democrats and Republicans, from George Washington till today. That combination of reckless defense spending and unproductive tax cuts is a disaster. It's a federal budget out of control, and it threatens the livelihood of every American.
Now, if you're talking about spending, you've got to start by talking about the amount of money they're spending on the Department of Defense. $1.6 trillion over the next 5 years. Can you imagine that amount of money?
Well, look at it this way. Here's an analogy President Reagan himself has used. If you could hold $1 million in your hand, a stack of $1,000 bills would be 5 inches high. But if you could hold that $1.5 trillion in your hand, that stack would be over 100 miles high. Now, we'll talk about our national defense policy in greater detail later, but clearly, we have to make sure there's a careful scrutiny of all Pentagon spending. It's amazing to think that the Reagan administration actually opposed the appointment of an independent inspector general to look into waste in that incredible military budget.
Not just defense spending, but all spending by government has to be carefully watched and analyzed for its real value to the people. That's why several of my fellow Democrats and I have proposed a pay-as-you-go budget. It says simply that no bill or program can be enacted until a way of paying for it has been found. That way, you would stop adding to the deficit. And if you ask me, that's just good, hard common sense. You see, we've got to control spending, because when government is so deeply in the red, it has to begin borrowing in the same markets as private business, which pushes up interest rates, squeezes more and more companies out of borrowing, out of expansion, and out of new job creation. You know, it's like riding in your car. One foot jamming down on the accelerator, that's deficit spending, and at the same time, the other foot jamming down on the brake, that's tight money, and you can see what's happened.
To save jobs and create new ones, we need to lower interest rates. To encourage business, investment, and expansion, we need to lower interest rates now. You can see it, American business can see it, but the Federal Reserve Board and the administration can't seem to see it. We Democrats have an answer. We have proposed the Byrd-Wright interest rate bill. It directs the Federal Reserve Board to make sure interest rates are lowered and lowered automatically in relation to inflation, to a level that has been our historic policy for over 30 years.
Stopping the slide. Tax reform, controlled federal spending, interest rates that will build and not paralyze the economy. That's not every answer that will be needed, but it's a foundation to build on. And it leads to part two, moving forward again to a strong, vibrant economy.
It will be an economy in transition, a new strength and new opportunity for all Americans, a transition to new technologies, new industries, and a new vitality to our basic industries. Now, that's the kind of transition our economy has gone through before, when government has worked in partnership with business and labor.
We'll talk about 5 ways of bringing our economy back. 1, a new commitment to the research and development of technologies. 2, a new commitment to a skilled and educated workforce. 3, a new commitment to rebuilding our public assets, the roads, transportation, and service systems that are our basic commercial arteries. 4, a new commitment to energy self-sufficiency. And 5, along with a commitment to a strong but efficient national defense, a new commitment to controlling the critically dangerous arms race.
We will talk about making the necessary national investments of talent, determination, and capital. Investments in our capabilities, our will, our traditional strengths, our faith in tomorrow. These are exactly the kind of investments that have always paid off in our entire history. Imagine what America would be like today had we not made the investment 100 years ago in our national railway system, had we not made the commitment to the GI Bill under Harry Truman, to our interstate highway system during the Eisenhower presidency, to NASA under John F. Kennedy.
The first step in rebuilding our economy is a new commitment to research and development. The Reagan administration has a very clear position on this subject. This year, they've cut even further our national commitment to science, space, and R&D. American brains and ingenuity built this country into what was the strongest economy on the face of the earth. Now, our economic competitors around the world are certainly delighted to hear that this administration is pulling back. So the Democratic Party proposes a new commitment, at least 3% of our gross national product to research and development. We will reaffirm our faith in discovery, in the possibilities of the future. And in our future, we can no longer afford confrontation. We must cooperate in a partnership between business, government, and labor. That's why we, as Democrats, propose an Economic Cooperation Council, representing all of those groups to work together in building our country's economic future. We're not talking about a planned economy, but a partnership for economic growth.
And imagine another idea. Think of the possibilities if the kind of effort that went into the NASA program to put men on the moon go into our earthly needs, like finding new renewable energy sources. It could change our future. We can do that.
That's a big idea. But the real source of ingenuity and invention in our economy begin as small ideas in small business. My company didn't even exist 15 years ago. Today, our sales exceed at retail over $90 million. But the way the Republicans have cut back on research and development, the Republican interest rates, a taxation policy that seems to favor big corporations and big takeovers, the regulations and red tape that work against small business, well, I just wonder how many great new ideas from small companies will never see the light of day because in the next year, thousands and thousands more small businesses may fail. They just don't seem to understand what entrepreneurs and small business mean to this country.
Small business already accounts for 47% of our workforce. And according to some experts, small businesses will provide 80% of the new jobs. That's because small business develops 24 times as many new inventions for the same research dollars as big business. Certainly we need big business in America, but we need a government not only concerned with big business. We need low interest rates to help small businesses with good ideas get started. We need to commit a greater number of research and development projects directly to small business. And surely we need to reform tax and regulatory policies towards small businesses even more than we have done up to this point.
Government's role in research and development is as American as apple pie. In fact, it's just about as old. You know, back in the days of Abraham Lincoln, we created land-grant colleges that worked as partners with farming communities to develop the technology of scientific farming all the way across America. This built a technological lead over the rest of the world that we still hold on to more than 100 years later. It's phenomenal today that one farmer can feed more than 70 people here and around the world.
But family farms are hurting badly today. You know, we are small businesses too, and those sky-high interest rates are killing us. I know of many farm families who've lost everything in the past 2 years, and I think it's a national disgrace. Our earning power is less than it was even during the Depression.
We can use new technology to help with farm production, with soil and water conservation, but the real problems for farmers now are high interest rates, surpluses, and a sagging market here in the United States. That's why we propose not just to bring down interest rates, but to begin a new cooperative effort of government and business to help our small farmers find new markets. Farms, like all small businesses, can benefit by the formation of export trading companies to open up a whole new world of new markets and new opportunities. Our farmers are a great natural resource. We've got to protect them.
We've got to protect every working American. And we've been talking tonight about how a commitment to new research and development can help to create jobs in new industries. But that doesn't mean that we will abandon our basic industries: steel, auto, coal, heavy manufacturing. On the contrary, we believe that new technology will not only provide new jobs, it can also win back many thousands of the jobs that have been lost by providing the breakthroughs that will revitalize those industries and make them more competitive in the world market. All of this will require long-term financing to become a reality, a national investment corporation, an idea that worked to help bring this country out of the Depression, and also help to find and provide the capital funds for revitalization and modernization of our basic industries. as we've learned from our steel industry in West Virginia, we have to develop greater cooperation between government, business, and labor. We need to establish an Economic Cooperation Council, an organization that can create a partnership that will bring about growth through cooperation. And it's time the United States began to deal with the reality of the international economy that we live in today. America must get just as tough on trade as our world competitors and make sure that every other nation plays with the same fair rules that we do. That could be the difference in thousands of jobs a year.
The most important thing in our economy has always been our people. Hardworking, well-trained, and educated. And right now, speaking for people like me, we're willing to do whatever we can to be the best in the world. We know we can do it.
A fair chance at a good job through a solid education. That's always been the American way. That's why my great-grandparents came to this country. But the Reagan administration keeps right on cutting back on education. 50,000 teachers may lose their jobs. Head Start and other programs for disadvantaged kids are on the chopping block, programs that work. And they're threatening the student loans for 600,000 young people. That's my only chance for a college education.
And maybe they think that's a good way to save money, but don't they understand what education means to our economy? Every dollar this country has ever invested in education has returned an average of $6 to the gross national product. That's a pretty good investment if you ask me.
Right now, Russian kids my age are studying an average of 5 years more science than us. What does that mean for our national defense? The Japanese, with half our population, are turning out electronic engineers at double the rate that we are. What does that mean for our national economy?
Maybe the Reagan administration thinks they're saving money, but we'll all pay for it later. It's our future they're cutting back.
The Democratic Party opposes the Reagan education cutbacks. We want to see a new dedication to excellence in American education. And that's the second point in our program for economic growth. It's a new commitment to opening the doors of opportunity for all American kids. Opportunity and fairness for all. That almost sounds like a cliche, but our future depends on it. We really need a kind of educational renewal in America. Democratic governors across the country are making education for economic growth a top priority. One good idea is the American Defense Education Act. It calls for better teacher training, a stronger emphasis on math and science, engineering, computer literacy, rigorous testing, and a real commitment to high standards and discipline. And we're going to go beyond that. We've got to make sure that education connects up to opportunity and that our children are training for jobs that will be there when they graduate. Government must encourage business and labor to be our partners in education and skill training at every level. They have as much stake in our children's future as we do.
An old friend of mine, Hubert Humphrey, really expressed my feeling of government in the last speech he ever made. He said the moral test of government is how it treats those in the dawn of life, the children. Those who are in the twilight of life, the aged. Those who are in the shadows of life, the sick, the needy, and the handicapped. Tonight, we're not going to dwell on Social Security. The difference between the Democrats and the Republicans on that issue is clear to all of you, that I'm sure. The Democratic Party is proud to have built Social Security into a system that has meant a decent life for so many millions of our senior citizens. And we'll continue to stand behind it, as we always have in the past. On another matter, we'll continue to fight the Republican resistance to women's rights. We have reintroduced the Equal Rights Amendment, and we'll push for its passage and its ratification. Human problems, left untended, do not go away. They just keep showing up as bigger problems somewhere else.
Right now, the most devastating problem in this country is the unemployment of able-bodied and willing Americans. This is planned unemployment, don't forget, as a Republican economic policy, and it has callously ripped at millions of American families, assaulted the basic dignity of millions of good people. Their pain and suffering, and the pain and suffering of their families, is intolerable. To find the attitude of the Reagan administration toward them, you need look no further than their recent consideration of proposals to tax the unemployment benefits of the millions of Americans out of work.
I just don't understand it. Millions of people out of work, people like me with skills, people who've worked all their lives, people willing to do just about anything. And looking around, there's so much to be done.
Our third point, a new commitment to rebuilding our public assets, rebuilding America. That won't just help the jobless. It's jobs at work that must be done. You can't build new factories without new water and sewer lines. You can't ship new products without roads, railroads, and ports. But President Reagan seems to think these kinds of programs are unnecessary. He calls them pork barrel jobs programs. But we say, rebuilding America, restoring the self-worth and dignity to millions of Americans. That's one of the most important things this country can do. Rebuilding America means opportunity.
In my home state and several other states, a great potential resource goes underutilized because as a nation we lack the rail and barge transportation and deep water ports to expand our share of the world market. Increased use of coal here in the United States and greater exports of coal and the technology to burn it cleanly and efficiently would mean jobs. It would also mean we wouldn't have to pour billions of dollars into imported oil. It's $60 billion a year now, $60 billion, some of which goes to finance some of our most vocal adversaries around the world. $60 billion that could go to work for our economy, not theirs. But the Reagan administration has abandoned nearly every single alternative energy program except nuclear fuel. For the sake of our economy and our national security, we must have a new commitment to energy self-sufficiency. The fourth point in our action plan, we propose a goal of becoming a net energy exporter by the year 2000. And we can do that by supporting research and development of many alternative energy sources.
Now, maybe the most frightening thought about our current energy policy is that it depends on a frail lifeline that begins thousands of miles from our shores, exposed to all the hazards of international conflict. So a commitment to energy self-sufficiency connects directly to our national security and to our fifth point, building a strong but efficient national defense.
This administration has asked for a massive increase in the defense budget at a time when a $200 billion deficit threatens our economic foundation. And I think two questions must be asked. How much does it take to make us truly stronger? And how strong can we truly be if that spending paralyzes our national economy? We need sophisticated weapon systems, but we must choose them wisely. For instance, it is not a proven fact that more multi-billion-dollar carriers increase our security. We should have learned that from the Falklands War. Let us fight to protect fair pay for our men and women in uniform, not go back on our promises as this administration proposes to do. Their drive and spirit are the best answer of all to the Soviets.
The Soviet military buildup is real, and we must respond to it. But we believe in a steady, sustainable modernization of our military forces, based on a coherent national strategy, not wild spasms of spending for their own sake. The Democratic Party is committed to both strength and readiness, to new tactical warfare strategies, and to better systems such as the cruise missile, which is a far more capable system than the dense PAC-MX missile plan of President Reagan. And further, we believe in better coordination with our allies, not only to get them to spend their fair share of the defense burden, but also, and more importantly, to restore confidence by the Europeans in American leadership.
Here at home, we have to get better control of Pentagon spending. The examples of waste are unbelievable. One, for instance, the Pentagon spent more than $3 million last year for shots and veterinary care for the pet dogs of generals. At the same time, the Reagan administration was canceling programs to inoculate our children. Strength is vital. But as John Kennedy said, we should never negotiate from fear, but nor should we fear to negotiate. The Democratic Party believes that it is time to negotiate a mutual and balanced and verifiable reduction of nuclear arms on both sides.
To think this administration's head of civil defense has said he believes that if every American had a shovel, we could survive a nuclear holocaust. To think they dare to talk openly about a limited nuclear war. Now, how does that make you feel? Frankly, it gives me the chills.
He may talk about arms control, but President Reagan has reversed the commitment of every president since Dwight D. Eisenhower to keep this nation in the forefront of an effort to stop the spread of nuclear weapons in the world. Now is the time to act before the terrible possibility of mankind's final war can ever become a reality.
Tonight, we've talked about ideas to address the immediate economic crises, to reform taxes, curtail deficit spending, loosen up interest rates. And we've talked about ideas to get our economy moving again, new technology, a new commitment to education, rebuilding America, making this country energy self-sufficient, building a strong but efficient national defense, and controlling the arms race.
There is a fundamental difference in our two parties. The Republicans say and believe the less government we have, the better. They are anti-government by philosophy. But Democrats say government should and must have a role, a creative role in stimulating growth, providing fairness of opportunity, and forging the partnerships of business, government, labor, and education, the partnerships that will bring this country out of these hard times.
That role of government as partner and catalyst and planner for growth is not new. It has seen this country through every stage of boom and development in our history. Think about that. Pushing the railroads west, opening up the waterways for transportation of goods, establishing that incredible system of land-grant colleges, recovery from the Depression, the GI Bill, stimulating education and opportunity. The list of achievement and record of growth goes on, and it will happen again. Nothing is beyond the will of the American people.
We are committed. We are determined. We are already hard at work on those ideas and many more. America has always been great. Americans have always been proud. Things need to be changed. Let us work together to make this nation greater.
You've heard a number of constructive ideas and proposals from the Democratic Party. Government has to be smarter and more efficient. We've learned that. But government has also got to care, and it can do both. That's what those ideas are all about. Not miracle cure-alls, but the first steps toward a better day. And that day will come if we truly want it. If we work together, it will come. Thank you, and good night.